Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we re-tackling a question that has probably crossed your mind at 30,000 feet. Is there a safest place to sit on an airplane? You're buckling up, the flight attendant is going through the safety demo, and you can't help but wonder, if something went wrong, would I be better off here or over there by the window? It's a morbid thought, I know, but it's also a very human one. We all want to feel as safe as possible. So I did a deep dive into the data, the studies, and the expert opinions to find out if there's any truth to this idea. Does sitting in the front, middle, or back actually make a difference? Let's find out. First, let's get the big important fact out of the way. Flying is incredibly safe. I mean, ridiculously safe. The odds of being in a fatal commercial airline accident are something like 1 in several million. You are far more likely to get into a car accident on your way to the airport than you are to be involved in an incident in the air. So no matter where you sit, you're already in one of the safest modes of transportation ever invented. Remember that. But for the sake of our little thought experiment, let's look at the numbers. Several investigations over the years have analyzed airline accident data to see if any seating patterns emerge. The most famous one is probably a 2007 analysis by Popular Mechanics. They looked at every commercial jet crash in the US since 1971 that had both fatalities and survivors. What did they find? Well, it turns out your chances of survival were significantly better if you were sitting in the back of the plane. According to their data, passengers in the rear cabin, so behind the wing's trailing edge, had a 69% survival rate. Those in the middle section over the wings had a 56% rate. And passengers in the front, like first or business class, their survival rate was 49%. So based on this study, the further back you sit, the better your odds. Another major investigation was done by Time magazine in 2015. They analyzed the FAS ACCIDENT database over a 35-year period. Their findings were pretty similar. They divided the plane into thirds, the back third, the middle third, and the front third. The back third of the aircraft had the lowest fatality rate, at 32%. The middle third was slightly worse at 39%, and the front third was the least safe, with a 38% fatality rate. Now, you might notice the front and middle are pretty close in the Time study. But what was really interesting was their breakdown of specific seats. They found that the middle seats in the rear of the aircraft were the absolute safest. The fatality rate for those seats was just 28%. Why the middle seats? Well, the theory is that you have a buffer on either side of you. In an impact, you have people acting as a sort of cushion, compared to being on the aisle or by the window, where you might be more exposed to debris or a breach in the fuselage. So the data from multiple studies seems to point to the same conclusion. The worst seats are in the front of the plane, and the safest seats are the middle seats in the very back. It feels a bit counterintuitive, right? You pay all that extra money for first class with all the legroom and champagne, only to find out you might be in the statistically less safe part of the plane. Meanwhile, the folks crammed into the middle seats in the last row, right next to the lavatories, are technically in the safest spot. Kind of ironic, so why is the back safer? Aviation experts have a few theories. A lot of crashes involve a nose-down impact or a collision with the ground where the front of the plane takes the brunt of the force. The rear of the aircraft often remains more intact. Think of it like a car crash. The front crumple zone is designed to absorb impact, but the people in the back are further away from that initial point of contact. The rear of the plane can sometimes break away and come to a stop more gently than the front. Also, sitting near an exit row is often cited as a good idea. This makes logical sense. In a survivable incident, the biggest challenge is often evacuating the aircraft quickly. Fire and smoke can fill a cabin in minutes. The FAA requires that airlines be able to evacuate a full plane in 90 seconds or less. Being closer to an exit door, in theory, means you can get out faster. A study from the University of Greenwich looked into this. They interviewed over 2,000 survivors from more than 100 different plane crashes. They found that passengers sitting within 5 rows of a usable exit had a much better chance of getting out. Once you get more than 5 rows away from an exit, the odds of survival decrease significantly. So a rear seat near an exit door? Statistically, that seems to be a winning combination, but here's the crucial thing to understand. Every single plane crash is unique. Every single one. There is no one-size-fits-all rule. The data we've been talking about is an average, compiled from dozens of different types of incidents. A crash where the tail hits first, for example, would completely flip these statistics on their head. A water landing, like the famous Miracle on the Hudson, presents a different set of challenges. In that case, the rear of the plane actually started taking on water first, so people at the front had an easier time evacuating onto the wings. This is why aviation authorities like the FAA and aircraft manufacturers, like Boeing and Airbus, don't designate any seats as safer than others. They'll tell you, correctly, that every seat on the plane meets the same high safety standards. They are all designed to withstand incredible forces. The type of emergency is the biggest variable, and it's completely unpredictable. So, what's the real takeaway here? Should you scramble to book seat 35E on every flight from now on? Honestly, no. The difference in survival rates, while statistically significant in these studies, is still relatively small in the grand scheme of things. And remember, the overall chance of being in a crash in the first place is minuscule. What truly matters, and what all experts agree on, is not where you sit, but what you do. The most important thing you can do to increase your safety is to pay attention. I know, we've all heard the safety briefing 100 times. We tune it out, put on our headphones, and scroll through our phones. But don't. Listen to the flight attendants. Count the number of rows to the nearest exit in front of you and behind you. Do it every single time you fly. In an emergency, the cabin could be dark, filled with smoke and chaotic. Knowing that the exit is 6 rows forward or 8 rows back could literally save your life. You'll be able to feel your way there by counting the seatbacks. Also, keep your seatbelt fastened whenever you're seated, even when the seatbelt sign is off. The most common cause of injuries on airplanes is not from crashes, but from unexpected turbulence. People get thrown around the cabin because they weren't buckled in. Keep it on snug and low across your lap. Wear sensible clothing. Think about it. If you had to evacuate a plane quickly, would you rather be wearing flip-flops and shorts or sturdy closed-toe shoes and long pants? The shoes are especially important for protecting your feet from fire or sharp debris on the ground. And finally, have a plan. Just a quick mental one. Think, okay, if something happens, my nearest exit is here. My backup exit is there. This is called situational awareness, and it's what pilots and cabin crew are trained to do constantly. Adopting even a little bit of that mindset can make a huge difference. So to wrap it all up, yes, statistically, the middle seats in the very back of the plane seem to be the safest. The front of the plane is statistically the least safe. But these are just averages from past incidents and are no guarantee for the future. The variables in any potential accident are just too great. What really matters is being prepared. Pay attention to the safety briefing, know where your exits are, keep your seatbelt on, and wear appropriate clothing. Your personal preparedness is a far more reliable safety tool than your seat number. Flying is safe. Relax, enjoy the flight, and maybe just give a little nod of respect to the person in that middle seat in the last row. They might just be in the best seat in the house. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this interesting, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives. Let me know in the comments where you prefer to sit on a plane and why. Stay safe, and see you in the next one.